What's your first name?
I'm Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Yeah.
Tony.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock, we're back in session, and we've got a couple things to dispense with. We've got the natural gas contract, which we got a little bit of clarification on that it's a substitutive provider, so I think we can roll that through.
Okay.
That was on the new business earlier today. And then we've got the issue of the FAA comment period. And so,
We need a motion on this, or the first issue? Or we,
yeah, we
do that
can.
first.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll take a motion. That's a
Second.
motion and a second. Roll call?
Commissioner Ferguson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kirchner?
Yes.
Commissioner Coates?
Yes. So on our break, I was able to contact our engineer that manages our airport and was able to confirm that we have until the 28th to submit our comments. Couple things that he pointed out to us was that he doesn't feel that any of our funding is in jeopardy if these projects go through. And he said that the nearest turbine is 5 miles, which would affect our Part 77 airspace, and that he has a call into the FAA in Oklahoma City as far as approaches. So he's waiting for a call back on the approaches and go from there. And on the information on Life Flight, of course, have you had a chance to meet with Ken on this?
I did. I talked to Ken about it. He's kind of, his position was, and I have the email that was sent way back, right, from back in June, and then I have that email that I got from Brad, or that letter, email letter. Ken doesn't have a position on wind either way. He looks at it kind of like I think Mark does. His position is, if they're there, we'll figure out how to get in. If they're not there, we'll figure out how to get in. So I would say he's neutral.
Yeah.
Is that your take on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's just important that we don't perpetuate the myth that people aren't going to get transported, because they are.
yeah, I mean, I still feel, and I get it, but
And we're just duty bound.
I just think if there's, and in my, in the letter that I'm proposing, the commissioner sent, I'm not referencing Life Flight. Or the crop dusters and that kind of thing, as Brad did in his. I mean, if we didn't have 40 turbines in the county, you would think it would be easier to land the aircraft than if you had. But if it's an emergency, those guys, that's what they do, they'll figure it out. But to me, it would be an easier path without them. And I don't know how that, he's gonna have to work that out, if in fact we get that far. I think my proposal is directed more towards the airport itself, although I don't like these wind turbines. And I think that's out there, but what this reply is, this is for the FAA, and for the FAA purposes, in here, if it obstructs the operations of the airport, we'll let the FAA decide that, Shane. That's the only thing I think it's good to do some prep work ahead, but the final say is gonna come from ODOT and the FAA. ODOT's also part of this. So, obstruct the operations of the airport in any way that would interfere with VFR, IFR approach operations. So that part, I think, is a pretty direct question, or a pretty direct statement.
So are you saying that if the FAA comes back and says
no hazard and approves, you're okay with that? I mean, that's.
We all have to live with it, what else can we do anyhow?
Yeah, I mean, that's,
I mean, if the FAA approves it, there's, I don't know what else we can do,
Mhm.
but I want,
but if they issue a report, are you willing to support that report? That's, I guess, my question.
yeah, I think in the end, the FAA, ODOT, and in this case, and maybe the Ohio Power Sighting Board, if in fact, things get reintroduced there, you know, for that project, they'll have the final say, but we have concerns as, I have a concern as a commissioner for our airport, and I want the FAA and ODOT to know that, because they go through their planning process, whatever they do legally. You know, we're not here to set the law, we're here to voice our concerns. That's how I'm
Well,
looking at it.
you know, I mean, I guess I would put it in perspective that we have an airport operator, just as we do people that are in charge of other departments, maintenance or the judges or whatever. And we have to-
Engineer.
Engineer, and we have to rely heavily on what their recommendations are. It is obvious that Brad is very uncomfortable with the potential change of approaches. And he's uncomfortable with the future of the airport, being able to expand it if the approaches are higher. You know, as far as Lifelight is concerned, you're right, I don't want to throw any false warnings out there, but I have had conversations with Lifelight itself, not only here but in other areas, about the ceiling problem. And Tony, as a pilot, can talk more about that, but Lifelight can't fly unless there's at least 1,000-foot ceiling. I mean, that's their own regulations, and if you got something 600 foot up in the air, now you got a 1,600-foot ceiling. So between the highest obstruction and the cloud cover. So, I mean, there are very real possibilities, and I don't know how often the ceiling, Tony, is below, you're a pilot,
Yeah.
you know, how often is it below 1,000 or 1,500 feet? But I do know that it happens. So, I mean, there is a possibility that there's gonna be a time when they can't fly because they can't squeeze it on their own rules. And I certainly don't wanna ever hear that.
That's for
happen, but I
sure,
don't-
yeah.
Yeah, but I
VFR.
don't wanna cry wolf either. But I think it's a matter of concern. But anyways, I'm relying on Brad's review and concerns about the airport and our investment in that airport. And this is, you know, as Tony said in the beginning, you know, we're concerned about these wind turbines, and there's a number of other factors for which we're concerned, but the airport's one of them. So even though the FAA may come back and say, hey, everything's good, I don't care if we clip one over the top. You know, I don't know what they're gonna say.
Yeah, and I think Shane, I mean, I think, you know, I know you're a kind of a facts guy, and I appreciate that. You know, so we don't want to make a statement that's not based on some research and some facts. I'm not relying on our consultant. We have a consultant, he's a professional, he's very good. But I don't want to rely on a consultant's total word as to what the FAA and ODOT may or may not do. I think this language is, I don't know what the right word is. but
Ambiguous
It's
enough.
ambiguous enough. It gets the point across that, hey, you know, we, Seneca County, are concerned about this. Let the FAA, ODOT run their facts and their studies, and, you know, that's what they do. If they come back and say, you know, these three, this area makes a difference and this area doesn't, then I think we did our job by letting them know that we're concerned. So I don't think we can control the outcome. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's my thinking.
Well, from my perspective, I have a call in to our consultant, he's calling Oklahoma, so I would like at least to hear back on it from them, you know, our expert, on what they feel the impact is on the approaches. I mean, I think that's due diligence, we've got 9 days, so I would expect for us to hear back before our meeting next week. So I think that's fair.
Other than that, do we have any other anything else to bring up?
No, I mean, my concern was if it had to be filed by tomorrow, we need to make a decision, but.
I have no problem waiting a week
No,
personally.
if it doesn't have to be filed
I just don't want to
tomorrow,
miss
I'm
the
fine with it.
deadline. And I said that earlier in the meeting, and I didn't know what the deadline
Yeah.
was. I'm good, if you're good.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm
we-
gonna leave this, we'll leave this here. We'll have chance between now and next week to make comments through you, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've
I'm
got
good
the
with that.
contact information here, and we pay these people, so.
I'm okay with that. I don't have any problem doing that.
All right.
Ah, Freddie,
Motion
Must be over.
Motion to table until next week and action for next week.
So move.
second,
Roll call?
Commissioner
Yep.
Paradiso?
Yes.
Commissioner Kushner?
yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes. All right.
Anything else we have to talk about?
Public comments?
No.
You came back for this? That was nice.
Yeah, I want to see what you had to say. I'm
All
curious.
right, 3:10, we're adjourned.